I think he will lose, but I do want to say that there's a chance. The chance is what he spoke about, and I wish I could have gotten you the soundbite.
It's my time. Listen, put it like this. If people can walk around, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way to religious people, but if you can walk around and you believe that the Son of God came down to earth 2,000 years ago and he killed himself for our sins and he could walk on water and there's a God up there looking after ourselves, and if you get on your knees and pray to him that things will change, if you can believe that, then you can believe that I can knock the Luke Rumble.
And so as a believing Christian, I believe Jesus walked on water. So I believe there's a chance. However, I don't think he's going to pull it off, Jay.
You are listening to MMA Think Tank with Jay and Mike.
Welcome to the MMA Think Tank podcast. I'm your host, Jay. Along with me is Mike over here. And before Mike gets his comeuppance...
Hey, Jay, I don't mean to interrupt you, but didn't we just interview an MMA pioneer? I think we should get to that first.
Oh, okay. Well, okay, we'll get to that. We'll go ahead and play the interview we just did with Miss Tara LaRosa.
So this interview, it wasn't just with an MMA pioneer like Tara LaRosa. It was about her, but we talked about the old days of the sport, the current days of the sport, where it's going. Jay and I, we had a great time.
Yeah, it was, Mike. It was an awesome interview and a must listen for any MMA fan.
Hello.
Hi, is this Tara LaRosa?
Maybe. Who's this?
This is Jay and Mike from MMA Think Tank podcast.
Oh, hi. How are you?
We're doing pretty good, Tara. It's great to talk to you.
Nice to talk to you, too. Sorry, I get random phone calls from time to time, and like a caller ID didn't come up, so I'm just like a little skeptical sometimes.
Oh, that's understood. That's totally understood. So how are you doing, Tara?
Pretty good. Life has been crazy lately. Holy cow, man.
I'm sure it has. Now, you've your last fight was last year, of course, against Howard, right?
Yes, yeah.
Any fights coming up?
Good. I am working on it. Oh my God. I am working so hard on trying to get a fight. I am contracted with Invicta right now, but I had talked about trying to go down to 115, and that's what my last fight was working toward, the one against Katie Howard. I did a catch weight at 120, and I felt okay. I felt fine. So I thought, all right, that was, it was rough, of course, difficult to get down to, but I think I could hit 115. But now UFC is having this 125-pound fight, so
yeah.
Now I'm like in limbo. I'm like, should I just hang out at 125, or should I go down to 115, or what should I do? But like right now, I'm looking for fights at 125. So I've seen the openings in like Bellator is having a 125-pound division. Titan FC contacted me last minute to take the fight against Karina Dam, but I couldn't get down that fast. So I was like, no, I'm sorry, I can't. But I would like to have the winner, and since she did win, that would be awesome. And of course Invicta, but I'm working on it. I'm trying the best I can.
Yeah, I saw that you had called Karina Dam, Sarah Alpart out for Titan FC. Dam won. Hopefully you do get to fight her at some point. But I want to backtrack just a little bit too, just to paint a picture for the audience who may or may not be too familiar with you, because we've got a lot of listeners that are hardcores and some new ones as well. I mean, you started out in hook and shoot, so you're a complete OG here. You're long running Bodog, was their champ. I mean, you fought all over the world. You got a purple belt in BJJ from Hoist Gracie. You fight at Jackson's MMA. You've beat a lot of who's who in this sport. before we get on to, your next fight too, I want to talk about your grappling tournaments. A lot of people don't know about that. You've got enough medals in grappling tournaments to decorate a Christmas tree. I mean, do you do that solely for the sport of grappling, or do is that just to keep your skills honed for MMA?
Well, that's where I came from. I mean, I started out in judo. I started doing judo in 1996. And I did judo for 6 years. I'm actually a second-degree brown belt in judo. And I've won North and South Carolina state titles, Midwest championships. I placed second at collegiate nationals in 2001. That was a long time ago, but that's where I came from. I used to just go like all over the place and do judo tournaments all up and down the East Coast and the Midwest. And after that, after I graduated college, because I did it at my college. After I graduated college, I moved into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and MMA and stuff like that. So, yeah. After I was transitioning from judo into jiu-jitsu, I was doing I did like Naga, Battle at the Beach, like number 2, which was back in like
2005, 2010,
or
you've rolled off all kinds of medals. I have a question too. You kind of touched on a little bit. You're looking for a fight right now. It's kind of tough. You're in limbo. Should you go at 125? But I've noticed it's been a year since your fight. With your status as a pioneer, with your skills, you just talked about how early you've been in grappling as well as mixed martial arts. Do you think that's sometimes hard? Why it's hard for people, for you to find a fight, for people to get in the cage with you?
Yeah, definitely. I do have a big record, but that's only because I've been around for a long time. I've been doing this for 15 years. Like, my record should be way, way bigger. Like, I'm only averaging something like 2 fights a year or something like that. And, I don't know. It is difficult because it looks bad if you put a girl that's like 3-1 against me or something like that. But the thing is, like, these people coming up, like the people in the sport coming up, are complete athletes now. They're like complete in the sport. Yeah. They've been able to like start out in MMA. They didn't come from judo and then go to jiu-jitsu and then have to learn like some stand-up and piece it together. Like, they can go into a gym now and train in MMA from the beginning. And there's so many more resources, if you don't mind me saying, you're that old dog, kind of like a Matt Hughes or a Chuck Liddell, where you had that one base and then you kind of you moved on to honing up your game. And I got to say, I certainly see where you're coming from, Tara, but you've never been submitted, and you've only been KO'd once in your long MMA career. I think that's a little something, another reason why people don't want to get in the cage with you. I'm grateful for that too.
Okay.
The KO, I guess it was TKO. It wasn't a KO. I don't know. That sucked. I never want to do that again. So I really try to train hard so that doesn't happen.
Well, hey, almost 30 fights, and it's only happened
really
once.
difficult to submit. So
yeah,
yay me.
I found that really interesting with your fight with Katie Howard. The way you decided to just stay on your feet. Was that the game plan?
I don't remember. Honestly, I don't remember what the game plan was for that fight, to be honest. But I did. I got in there and went through round 1. And I felt super comfortable on my feet. I mean, training down at Jackson's for 3 years, I did a lot of stand-up, and I was kicking a whole lot. I mean, like, I kicked for like 2 years straight, like every different which way, like Coach Brandon Gibson and Coach Winklejohn, like both just, oh my God, all these different crazy kicks. And I was super comfortable with it. So that's just, I felt comfortable on my feet. So I did that. I probably should have gone to the ground. I probably could have finished it. I don't know. I didn't feel her very much on the ground. But,
yeah, when I watched the fight as well, it looked like you were probably trying to keep it on the feet. I remember something, to bring Matt Hughes up again, I guess because I'm an old-timer, and I'll be honest with you, I'm a big fan of Matt Hughes as well as yourself and some of these other people that have fighters have come out from the quote-unquote older days. But it looked like he said that he was tired of winning the same way he had been winning, and he wanted to show his stand-up off, and he did that in some of his last fights. So it looked like that's what you kind of wanted to do in that fight, but Howard did try to take you down, and I believe you reversed it in the 3rd round, and you gave her some you gave her heck. Let's say it that. You gave her heck on at the end of that fight, and it was a very good fight.
It was fun. I mean, it was a good time, and she was super cool. I will tell you one thing, kind of funny story about that is she's like the first person that kind of, I don't want to say the first person, but I'm not going to say she tried to punk me, but she was like, I'm very friendly, especially
Right.
when I'm nervous. I'm friendly. So, like, I walked up to her. I was like, hi, I'm Tara. How you doing? You know, whatever. And just stone-faced. She just stone-faced, like, she never spoke a word, never said hi or anything. She shook my hand, yeah, but never changed her expression. It was just deadpan the whole time and never said a word. And so I was like, well, maybe she's just tired from the flight. So I did it again. We were somewhere else. I saw her. I forget what it was. And I was like, I said something to her, just stone-faced. Nothing. I was like, what in the fuck with this chick? So, sorry, I didn't mean to just drop that.
No, that's okay. I want to actually turn around to the other
it was
way
really
here.
funny. And she got up in my face in weigh-ins, like bad, like in my face. I was like, whoa, don't move. Oh my God. What am I gonna do?
Don't
I just
move.
like stood there frozen. It was really funny.
Yeah.
So another one I want to talk about though is on the other side of that coin is your peaceful rivalry with the peaceful warrior, Roxanne Modafferi. You are 1-2, against her. You got the best of her in the first bout. All decisions. Do you want to try and maybe even up, 2-2, or is that part of your career closed? I mean, I'd like to think that maybe like you guys fought again already behind closed doors, kind of like Rocky 3, that kind of thing. But instead of gloves on, maybe you brought the lightsabers. I mean, I saw that promo as busting up.
That's awesome. No part of my career is closed. Everything's worth revisiting. I've had a great career, and I thought that the Moosin fight back in 2010, I thought I won. I don't know.
Is that the split one?
If there was ever a case for a draw, that would have been it. Like,
yeah. You're talking about the split. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, that was very, very close. Yes, indeed.
Yeah. But the second one, the one we had at Invicta, things you could perceive things a little bit differently sometimes. When I was in the cage, I thought I won. I thought she was running away from me. I thought she was just like backing up and constantly running around. But when I actually watched that fight, she was just cutting angles.
Yeah.
And I don't think I won that fight.
Yeah.
I landed maybe more power shots, but I don't know. I guess I don't know. I didn't look very good in that fight at all.
Well, that's why I brought it up, because
I did break
it's
my hand
still
in the
pretty
first
close.
round.
Oh,
So-
you did break your hand. Okay.
Oh yeah, first round I broke it right on her forehead.
Oh, I
Yeah.
don't recall
Don't
that.
punch
That's
people in
pretty
the
awesome.
forehead,
I
that
didn't know
sucks.
that. It's not awesome that you broke your hand, by the way. It's awesome that you continue to fight and were able to go through that all 3 rounds.
Well, I went back to the corner. And Greg Jackson was in my corner, and I said to him, he asked me how I felt. I said, Coach, I think I broke my hand. He was like, oh, well, hit her with it. I was like,
Greg Jackson, everybody.
okay, all right. So, and that worked out for another round and a half. By the third round, I could not hit her with it. It sucked.
Yeah.
So,
It's understandable.
there's that.
Well, though, what still drives you overall, Tara? I mean, we've already talked about, everything you've done in grappling and MMA. But I mean, like, you've done so much in your career. You've won titles. You're a trailblazer for women and MMA. I certainly don't want you to hang up the gloves unless, of course, you want to. That's always your decision, of course. But what drives you now? It's been almost 15 years after your first pro fight. What's still driving you?
It's fun. It's just fun. I love training. I love being in the gym. I love being part of a team. I love the interaction. I love the physicality. I love the competition. I mean, that's me. That's my whole life. I've been playing sports since I was like 4 or 5 years old. I've been physically active since I was a really little kid. I don't know any other way. I mean, I took the last year off because I was after my fight, I went home and I had to help my family with the farm. And then I got tied up in a relationship, and we're not going to go there. But anyway, so I spent a year out in the regular world, like outside of the gym.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't fit. I don't know what to do with myself. I don't know. It's difficult. I don't want to say it's difficult to interact with people that don't train. I can easily, but when I'm myself, when I'm training, when I'm a fighter, when I'm me, but coming from a different perspective, like coming from a different lifestyle, I don't fit. I don't understand 5 o'clock happy hour. I don't understand
yeah,
how people get off work and then go to a bar and hang out and have drinks for a couple hours. Like, I don't get that. I mean, when you get done, why don't you go to the gym? Like,
you certainly, have
so weird.
what a lot of athletes have said. A lot of athletes have said that, and I can't fully understand that because I'm not an athlete, but I understand what you're saying. You're in something that's been so long a part of your life. To just give it up would be just an odd thing. But I found a video of you on YouTube as I was kind of like getting ready for this, and it was just simply called Tara LaRosa with a great speech. And I don't know if it was someone you know who posted that. But one thing that jumped out at me, besides talking about women's fighters and how they've finally arrived and thing, is you said that you wanted to work for one of the commissions. Is that something that you'd like to do when your fighting career is over? Because that would keep you it would keep you in the sport. You won't maybe be training other fighters, but is that something you'd like to do?
Yeah, I really, really would. There's some stuff that really needs to be fixed. There's some things that really need to be looked at and addressed in the sport. And people that are not fighters don't get it. They don't see it.
Well, tell us about some of that.
I am in the gym. I train with pros. I train with amateurs. And I see some of the shit that happens and some of the things that they are put through. Like with I don't know, promoters pulling opponents out at last minute and switching opponents and stuff.
Yep.
Or when they get to the venue, they decide that they're only going to give them 10% of their ticket sales instead of the agreed upon 20.
Wow.
When a promoter, I don't know, tells you the wrong spelling of the name of your opponent, and so you can't find anything on that opponent, so, you automatically assume, oh, he must not have any fights. He's not on Sherdog, he's not on MMA.tv, he's not on anything. I can't find his name anywhere. And come to find out, it was the wrong spelling, and the guy has, like 12 fights, and your guy has, 1.
Wow.
Or is making their debut. Bullshit like that.
Yeah.
That, promoters mess with fighters so bad, or set up fights, or pad people's record, and just go find some bum from the weightlifting gym to come in and get his ass beat, by the local hero that sells 150 or 200 tickets. That's horseshit.
Yeah.
I can't stand that. And
yeah, Rampage Jackson talked about that kind of stuff in Pride back in the day when he was fighting in Pride. About
the promotions are the ones that need to be cracked down on.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just going to say is that Rampage Jackson talked about that when he fought in Pride. All the little shenanigans and things that would be played on him. That not just the money, but like you said, the opponents, or suddenly you couldn't find the tape on people. And there's a lot of shady stuff going on.
Yeah.
So, Jay, you got anything else?
Tara, you'll never stop training, even if you are done with the sport.
I try, but it doesn't work. Somehow I always come back. I mean, I've gone through some hard and some rough points.
Yeah,
in my life, and the one constant that's always been there through a lot of the dark times or a lot of the loss has always been MMA. There's always been training, and that's the one consistent thing that I have.
Yeah.
If I could ask you something about that, another question I had listed for you, Tara, was when you lost in the Tough Show to get into the house to Sarah Miraz, I believe. It was a 2-round decision. Man, if it would have went to the 3rd round, if they would have allowed it, something else could have changed. But you talked about maybe you're going to try and get back into the UFC. How important is that right now for you to get into the UFC, to have at least one fight in the UFC before you decide to hang it up, whether it's you hang it up in 5 years or 10 years?
I think it's for closure, just so I can say I was there. I made it. I went to the top. I was there. I've done everything else. I mean, I was the top ranked chick for a long time in 2 weight classes. I was the first chick to ever be ranked in number 1 in 2 weight classes and at the same time.
Well, Tara, you were at the top.
I fought everywhere. I fought everyone. I cleaned out an entire division. I fought everywhere from 120 to 140, and I need that one last thing. I just want to see how I can do.
Yeah, you were definitely
on the big show.
You were definitely at the top in your day. So, there's nothing they can take away from that. You were definitely at the top.
And I think those days are still coming. I mean, I don't think I'll put it into perspective for you, at least from me, from a fan. You lost 3 in a row before bouncing back against Katie Howard. That had never happened to you before. You had never lost 2 in a row, and let alone you lost 3 in a row. You came back, you bounced back, you got this win. To me, that tells me you're still doing your thing. You're still ready to go. So I see the UFC still in the future. There's something I saw that this really surprised me. Not because you can't do this, not because you're not an awesome person, but I saw you've got a movie coming out pretty soon. You want to talk about that?
Actually, it's supposed to have been filming for like the past 2 years, and it just keeps getting put on hold and pushed back, and then funding changes, and then production changes, and all kinds of stuff like that. But yeah, actually, it's a really, really cool part, which is kind of like the perfect role for me.
That's what I thought when I read it. When I read your part, I said, "Oh, this is her."
Yeah, Are you talking about Facade?
Yeah, Facade Chapter 4 is what the full name, I guess, is.
Yeah, I'm a U.S. Marshal, and I get to go undercover against this organized crime ring, and they figure out who I am, and then some crazy shit happens.
Well, yeah, I would certainly expect that to happen with the storyline with you in there. I saw that Michelle Watterson is in the movie as well. Did you work with her at all? Did you guys have a good time? I guess you've been pushing it back. I guess. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we haven't filmed yet. It hasn't filmed yet.
Yeah. Well, are you looking forward to it? Is that going to be a problem with your fighting career?
When we're going to do this? When's this happening? So I keep getting updates like every other month or every couple of months, where just like, okay, filming's going to be in DC. Okay, filming's going to be in Baltimore. We're postponing filming because we might need to move it to LA. So I'm just like, oh my God, this is a whole lot of hurry up and wait.
Yeah, I hear that happens a lot in Hollywood.
But in the meantime, I am totally open to other roles. Like, I would love to do movies. I always have, and I'm really interested in stunt work too. I'm dying to fall out of a window.
I saw you had done one stunt work project, I guess, on a TV show. I think is that true?
Yeah, it was super cool. It was the first thing I ever got to do, really. I did stunt work for an episode of Law and Order, and the episode is called Lonelyville, and the actress actually is like, I guess, the scene is she went home with this guy from a bar, and then she gets tied up and winds up dead, like on the bed. And so I was like the stunt double for her, where they like tied me up for like 2.5 hours, like in this kind of nasty position. And I guess they like set different camera angles and did different stuff and whatever, and then let me go.
and you would still like to do that, even though it was kind of tough. I guess it's probably a lot easier than getting punched in the face, I guess.
Yeah, it was super fun. It was cool. I want to do some of the strenuous stuff, like, fall off the roof or crash through a window, like 4 stories up or something, or get blown up. Or I want to do cool shit.
Well, I want to bring up something just to bounce back really quick. We're talking about movies, and I kind of talked about you and Roxanne Modaffari and the lightsabers and everything, and because that preview for Invicta, I think it was Invicta 8, how Roxanne walked out with a hood on and the lightsaber, and you just started cracking up. I believe Julie Kenzie was the interviewer, and I would just love to see both you guys as light, as Jedi, like in the background of the next Star Wars movies. I mean, you guys could certainly pull it off. You might be more of the active Jedi look, more of like the Darth Maul. She might be more of the hang out in the back, Yoda character. I don't know, but I'd love to see you guys in movies too.
It's funny because both of us are more Jedi. Like, neither one of us are really dark side. That's Shayna. Shayna Baszler, she's definitely all Sithy and everything like that.
Somebody you defeated, by the way.
Sometimes
so.
I have my Sithy moments, but
Yeah.
for the most part, I'm Jedi.
As Mike said, somebody you've defeated before, Shayna Baszler.
Shayna's like my best friend.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good to know. I was not aware of that.
I was just talking to her a few minutes ago.
Julie Kenzie, you defeated her too, a pioneer as well. Someone that I saw in the Tap Out TV show a while back as well. She was interviewing you as well. How weird is that to be interviewed maybe by a former fighter? Do you think sometimes, okay, they've got the microphone now, how is it going to be different? Or do you think, you know what, this is a fighter. They know what I'm going through. They're not going to give me any cheap shots.
Well, she was also my teammate for a long time at Jackson's. Before she retired, I was training with her. So, she's a good friend. She's a really close friend. All of them, everybody that I've mentioned, from Shayna, Roxanne, Julie, they're all really good friends of mine. So Julie was cool, though. I mean, I think she made a great transition, and I think the position at Invicta was perfectly suited for her. Like, absolutely. She's really, really, really intelligent and really smart about the sport and making matchups and just like, putting together different styles and different people and stuff. So I thought that was freaking perfect. But it was super fun. That was a great interview. We had a good time with that.
She's smooth on the mic, and Jay is a little more, as you can tell, smooth on the mic than I am. So I certainly understand. When you hear somebody who can really go for a while, know what they're talking about, especially during fights, when a lot of people may not know Invicta as much, and they're getting to know Invicta now because they're on the Fight Pass, on UFC Fight Pass. So it's exciting to see that happening.
Yeah, for sure. This is pretty awesome. This whole UFC Fight Pass thing is really opening up a lot of avenues for people. I mean, there's so many shows that are on there now. That's awesome. I love it. And it's like, before, like, you had to deal with stuff like these small little shows that their websites or their servers would crash, or you had to pay like something stupid like $7.99 for, like, I don't know, a fight or something. It was weird. It was like just so unorganized. This UFC Fight Pass is awesome.
Yeah.
Like, anybody that doesn't have it, you really need to check into it. If you just want to try it out for a month, definitely do it. But I would totally suggest getting a yearly subscription.
Yeah, me and Mike have been pushing. Yeah, me and Mike have been pushing the Fight Pass for quite some time now. Matter of fact, it was about a year ago when I told Mike that this Fight Pass is really going to blow up because I pretty much predicted they were going to start putting bigger fights on Fight Pass, and they've been doing that because they need to do that to sell this thing. And
it's great. I love it.
And
I watch it a lot. I mean,
to have
really
the whole
find opponents too.
Yeah, and to have all these other cards with Invicta, you've got Invicta in there. It's pretty awesome because people can get more familiar with that organization and all of you guys. And it rocks. Yeah, so we push that
Actually,
often.
I think some of my old stuff is on there from Hook and Shoot because they bought the entire I think they bought the Hook and Shoot archives.
Wow.
Yeah, Hook and Shoot's on there. And I start off by saying you're an OG because you start off in Hook and Shoot. That's something that it was Bulldog was on TV, so we were able to see some fights there and things like that. Would you mind talking a little bit about Hook and Shoot, about kind of the beginning of, because it was one of the first organizations to really have women's MMA before women's MMA was quote unquote cool.
Oh, Hook and Shoot was where it was at. Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
That was the big show. That was the big time for us. There wasn't anything. There was nothing else. I mean, there's a little spotty show here or there, throughout the regional scene. But, I mean, that's where you wanted to fight was Hook and Shoot. And I was on that first all-women's show, which was freaking awesome. And, I mean, I remember going to this, and I was just like, oh my God. I was always a huge pro wrestling fan. I've always been a huge pro wrestling fan, and that's
Were
what I
you a
wanted to go
Hulkamaniac?
into.
I was.
I totally was. Absolutely. And I also loved Roddy Piper.
Well, yeah, sorry to interrupt you. I just want to let you know that we were
my all-time
all
favorite.
Hulkamaniacs growing up. So please continue,
I might be the only
Tara.
person in the world that did not like Ric Flair.
Yes.
I did not. Woo! Shut up. No. I know. I just offended most of the country out there by doing that, but I was just not. Roddy Piper all the way, baby. He was the man.
Yeah, you didn't offend me at all. I was, unfortunately, I wasn't a fan of the WWF and all that back in the day.
Yeah, but see, that's kind of I loved the show of it. I loved the entrances and the walkouts and stuff, and the music was so cool. So when I got into MMA, back then it wasn't really MMA. It was more like NHB or shoot fighting or Shudo or whatever you want to call it. I showed up to Hook and Shoot for that fight. I used to walk around like Billy Badass. Like I had like black pants and then this black sleeveless tank top, and I used to wear shades, my sunglasses all over the place with like a black a black thing in my hair, a black scarf, like handkerchief or whatever. And that's just how I walked around like that. But that was me. That's really, but it was kind of like a character. Like I always walked around like Billy Badass, and people really thought that I was some kind of badass. I mean, especially after a couple of fights, like people would tell me, they're like, oh my God, you're so intimidating. I was so afraid to talk to you. I was like, are you kidding me? Thank God you didn't see my eyes. Oh my God. Like I hid behind my shades. Like I had this whole persona kind of thing, this Billy Badass, but I so wasn't. Oh my God.
How do you feel now though, from then to where you are now? You said you were kind of hiding behind the glasses, behind the dress and stuff like that. Where are you at now from there?
Now I'm just me. I'm all over the damn place.
Aren't we all?
I had this thing after I lost to Jen Howe, which was that horrific TKO that made highlight reels for like the next 7 years until Misha got kicked in the face.
Okay, yeah.
Which I love so much. Anyway, after that whole thing, after that knockout, I reinvented myself and I started wearing all white. Like that was like my trademark, because I mean, if you look at everybody, especially back then, all you ever saw was black and red, black and silver, black and gray. That's it, or maybe
Skulls
a navy blue
bones,
or something.
like all that kind of stuff.
Nobody wore any freaking colors because everybody wanted to be the Billy Badass, and it was fighting, it was dark, and it was mean and blah, whatever, corny. So I started wearing all white, and I started coming out to the cage in all white, and people started to recognize me, and I stood out. So that was kind of a thing, like I really wanted to do. Plus, I'm the good guy.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to be the good guy. I'm always the face. I love being the face.
I've got a question for you now. Talking about just the transformation you've had there. Really, how do you feel about the UFC, and Reebok and everybody coming out very much closely in a similar type of outfit? How do you feel about that? You can talk about, if you want to talk about the if it's good for the fighters or good for the promotion or whatever. But I would like to get at least your take on, now that everybody in the UFC kind of has the same type of uniform. What are your take on that?
It is what it is. I think it. Okay, I have two sides on this. Like there's a front and back side of the coin. On one side, it really, really sucks because you can't be as much of an individual and you can't stand out as much anymore. And you can't put your sponsors on there. You can't have sponsors and stuff like that. That is a killer.
Yep.
That sucks. And that is killing a lot of the people in the sport because that's where they make their money.
Yeah.
Although, I have to say, starting wages at UFC have gone up significantly in the past, 5 years, something like that. So yeah, we've come a long way from 1-1, you know.
Yeah.
But
Well, I remember 1-1. I
it
know there
does
was 5-5
kill that,
for a while. I
which
think
sucks.
5-5 was the last time I really noticed the pay, but I don't get too much into that side of it. I'm you know, I like to look at all aspects of the sport. Obviously, me and Jay we've been big fans for a long time, and we talk about fights, we talk about fighters, we talk about everything. And that's something we've also talked about is it good for the UFC? Is it good for the fighters? Some fighters I know. Look, when you get to the very tip top, when you're your George St. Pierre, when you're your Conor McGregor, your Misha Tate. You get paid so very well with Reebok because of the fights how many fights you have. So when you're coming into the UFC with only 2 fights, you're not getting too much on that besides your base.
You're not getting anything. It really, really sucks, you know? So, I mean, you got to put in, and think about it, how many fights do you get with the UFC a year if you're signed to them? I mean, there's Cowboy, who obviously they'll put him on every damn show, or he'll be on every show if he had a choice. But maybe you'll fight twice a year. Maybe. If you're lucky, 3 times a year. So it's really hard to rack up like that, get up that pay chart. So that's really difficult. Now, on the other side of the coin, personally, for me, I absolutely hate running around trying to get sponsors and put stuff on my shorts and like try and get a banner and try and get, oh God, I missed this person. Oh shit, I have to iron that one on. That's a huge pain in the ass for me, trying to figure out what the hell I'm going to wear.
Yeah, a lot of fighters have alluded to that.
Actually, like in a very, very small way, I'm like, sweet, you're going to give me clothes? I'm down. Let's do this.
It's one less thing to worry about. It's just you just get in there with that fighter you want to fight. I'd like to ask you, is there a fighter that you still really want to fight, or maybe a rematch you really want? Before you move on, I don't know, to being in the commission or becoming that movie star.
The one that got away, that really, really sucked, that really needed to happen, was Rosie Sexton. We were both flip-flopping for number 1 and 2 for a long time, and we were both right up there at the top at 125, and that's a fight that should have happened that never did. And she's retired now. I don't know if she would ever come out of retirement or anything, but that fight got screwed up a couple of times, and there's one particular person that could be to blame for that too. So,
okay.
Yeah, promoters.
Yeah.
Let me be a part of the commission so I can run over these miserable MFers.
So
I just want to make it more like going back to the commission thing. I just want to make it more difficult for people to get a promoter license, so not every Tom, Dick, and Harry can just go run a show and not know what the hell they're doing. You know?
Yeah. Yep.
I want knowledgeable people that are really passionate about the sport, that really want to invest in, the region or the fighters or the sport itself. Yeah. That's what it should be, not these assholes that just come along and want to prey on fighters who, say, oh yeah, come by my. They make them sell tickets. They don't get paid, like especially amateurs. Oh, they don't get paid. They don't get shit. Half the time they don't even get a hotel room or nothing.
Wow.
At all.
This is a legitimate sport now. We got to get it going.
You can only fight for us if you can sell 50 tickets.
Yeah.
That's horseshit. 50 tickets at like $55 a piece.
Yeah.
You know how difficult that is? That's difficult. Yep. That is hard. And then to train for a fight and then have to pay for all of your medicals and your supplements and cutting weight with like your diet and your food and time away from your family. And even amateurs do that stuff too. It's not just pros. So especially if you have a job too, I mean, it's horseshit.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Well, I say you need to be in that commission all the way. I'd back you up on that.
The one commission in the country that does it right and has the oh my God, they're the best and they're the easiest to work with, and I absolutely love them. And it's not just because I'm biased, because it's my home state, but New Jersey.
Jersey, huh?
New Jersey is by far the best commission to fight for and work with and everything. I mean, ahead of time what to expect. You know what they need. You know how things are going to run, and it doesn't deviate. And it's not shady, and it's not, oh, well, maybe this, or, oh, well, I didn't get that signed. Well, let's let somebody else do that. Or it's, Jersey is awesome. They are the benchmark for where commissions should be.
And they're the first two Zuffa owned UFC shows are out of Jersey. So I'm with you. I hear you.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Now you mentioned that Rosie Sexton was the one fight that got away. Who else would you like to fight? Is there a fighter out there now that you would love to punch in the face?
There's a couple.
Let us know.
It could be men also,
I
by
wanted
the
to go down to 115. Oh, my God. Some of those mouthy little brats, they need their butt kicked hard, like bad. Ugh.
So what if we could see you in the UFC at 125? Who would you want to face?
Oh God, I don't know. I don't know who would come. See, there's a couple chicks there at 135 that I know would come down to 125, and there's a couple chicks that are down at 115 that I'm 100% sure would come up to 25. I don't know. I got a good one. You know what? Next time I'm running, I'll think about that. I always need something to go through my head when I'm running. So.
All right.
Well, I like to say that, this 125 division of the UFC, I know it hasn't been specifically stated that they're going to have one, but they have a fight coming up at 125. I forget, sadly, who's fighting, but there is a 125 fight coming up. I would like to think that if the UFC is going to have your flyweights along with the straw weights and the bantamweights, that you're a shoo-in whether, what you do whether you win or lose, in your next fight, whenever you do get a next fight. And my guess is you'll win that next fight. But not just because you're a pioneer, but because it's your natural weight class. And who better to have someone really start that weight class and have a name but yourself? And I don't say that because I've got you on, on the show here, but it just makes sense. And if, for me, I look at Michael Bisping and what just happened to him, he was a company guy for so long for the UFC. He's win some, he lose some, and then finally he got that belt. And I think, maybe this is your way of possibly getting into the UFC. You've not been a company guy for the UFC, but you've been a company lady for MMA as a whole. We've discussed it already.
Yeah.
And I think it would be great to have you at 125, and it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree 100%, Tara.
I'm down. I mean, I'd be, there's one point where Misha told me that she would drop down to 125 to fight me. We our issues go back way before Ronda ever came around.
Oh, so there's some bad blood there, huh?
I would have no problems punching her right in the mouth.
Wow.
Well, I'd like to ask you a question then.
Or elbowing her in the face or any of it. No problems whatsoever. So there's that.
Well, I'm not too familiar. I know a little bit about your beef. I've heard you don't like her, but did any of that stem from also being on the Tough Show on the Ultimate Fighter? Because she was a coach, I believe. Am I right?
Nope.
She wasn't a coach on that season. Okay.
Oh yeah, she was, but no, our stuff stems back from like 2006.
But on Tough, though, did anything more come to a head because you guys were in the same room?
No, kind of, but I kept my cool.
Okay, good for you.
I kept my cool and there weren't any cameras around, so it is what it is.
That's what I was wondering, because you get around someone you really don't like, whether, they're family member, you work with them, or it's just that person walking down the street you see every day. I don't know. That it's always something, and we've all been there.
Yeah, I can't stand her face. Oh, my God.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Christ. Yeah, we don't do – I mean, it's just – we're both adults, but it's just a little bit tense, and you can tell. Like, when we're in the same room together, there's a lot of tension. We don't like each other. That's how it goes. I got real good reasons for it. It's not petty bullshit. It's not just because I don't like it.
I don't want to pry too much more into that. That's your business. You want to talk about it? We're here to listen because we want to know everything about this sport, about the fighters. But something I would like to ask you, I know this may not be specifically about you, but it does pertain to you. You fight at Jackson's. You've got all these great fighters around you as well. Can you give us kind of you walk into the gym? What do you expect on certain days? Is there a day where you don't come across a lot of your fellow fighters where it's more just a cardio day, or are you always seeing Cowboy Cerrone? Are you always seeing Greg? What's it like over there for people like us myself that we see you guys train in videos, but we don't know what it's like?
Well, you do. You absolutely do. I mean, you walk into the gym, and me, I'm always late, usually. So everybody's either got their gear on or they're just, everybody comes in at different, like Holly's late sometimes too. Sometimes Michelle Worsen will wander in a little bit late because she had to pick up her daughter or something. So, sometimes like some people are already on the mat and they're already warming up or sparring, and some of us are still wrapping our hands or getting ready or, doing something specific, taping up a toe or a finger or something that's wrong. So you come in. This is the old gym. I haven't been there for like a year. I haven't trained there for a year. But back in the old gym, and you would come in, and one of the highlights of my day, which you never had a bad day, and there was always a good energy if John Dodson was in the gym.
Yeah.
John Dodson,
he
the magician.
is the awesomest guy to have in the gym. He just, it could be a rainy, shitty day, or it could be just hot and miserable, sticky outside, whatever. But if Dodson is in the gym, it is an awesome day. His energy is so infectious, and he's just happy and upbeat and fun, and he's just an all-around awesome person to have in there. Another one who else is really cool. Cowboy's always fun to watch. Right. He's cool. Oh my God, who else? Arlovsky, he's awesome. Him and his big Russian accent.
Yeah.
He's fun. I was super intimidated by him for a long time. Like, I was kind of afraid of him. Like, he doesn't really talk to you. He doesn't talk to you at all if he doesn't know you. And so I just sort of skirted around the gym, like, whenever he was around, but he turned out to be really cool. There's just some really great characters down there, and guys that you haven't really even probably gotten to hear of yet because they're not in the UFC, like Nick Urzo. Oh my God, angry little Urzo. He is so awesome. He's this angry little Italian guy that is a 125er, and he trains a lot with John Dodson, and he's super, super good, so talented. And he's just, like, angry all the time. It's so funny, but it's, like, a funny way. It's kind of like me. Like, I get my little rants, and people just kind of laugh at it, But he's awesome. He's fun in there. Landon Venata. Oh, my God, you are so going to see this kid in the future. He is so much fun. There's nothing that this guy can't do. He is such an athlete. I mean, he can just, and he's really, really into like his cross training type thing is like movement culture. Kind of like the stuff that
Conor McGregor.
What's his name?
Conor McGregor.
Yeah, the stuff that he talks about. That Landon is so into it, and he's so good. He can do so many cool things with his body and with movement. This kid is just such an incredible athlete. I can't wait for the whole world to see him. And he hangs out a lot with Cowboy, and he trains with Cowboy a lot and stuff.
This is kind of stuff that I really like about you, as well as someone like Uriah Faber. I live near Sacramento, and so I've come in contact with some of the fighters there. Some of the guys who are in the gym right now that haven't made it to the UFC. Some guys that are working their way up. I know a guy named Mario Soto, who I know has fought. He's working his way up. But also for yourself, the reason I bring Faber up as well is that both you and he are not afraid, and other fighters, of course, I'm sure. If you watched the last pay-per-view, first thing out of his mouth after his loss was Cody Garbrandt. Now, I realize Cody Garbrandt's already kind of a big thing in the UFC, but you guys aren't afraid to say, you know what? We got other guys. We got other ladies. We got other girls in the gym that are coming, and you always let us know. Yeah. We're really appreciative of that.
Oh, yeah. We lift each other up. We boost each other's signal. That's kind of how it's supposed to go, right?
Exactly.
I don't know. For me, it is. I don't care. Like the people that are shitty, that don't want to give anybody else credit, or they only want to talk about themselves. Screw them. Whatever. That's not what it was about. when I was coming up back in the day, we all like helped each other out. Like if I got offered a fight and I couldn't take it for whatever reason, like I wasn't training or I couldn't make the weight or it's just I had something conflicting coming up, I would like call up somebody else. Like I'd throw it to Amanda Buckner or Shayna or whoever. I'd be like, yo, I can't take this fight. I just got offered it. You want it? This is what they're offering. This is when and where it's at, you know? And we all talked. Like there was a core of us that did that. And like when we had interviews or big interviews in like magazines and stuff, we threw each other's names out there and we helped each other. You know, we would recommend each other for shows and to different promoters and stuff like that. That's how it worked. Today, not so much. Not really like that a lot today anymore. Everybody's really, really out for themselves. It's that whole new generation thing.
Yeah.
But I don't subscribe to that magazine.
Well, you know what,
Tara,
if you'd allow us, we're having a great conversation, but we're gonna have to kind of end it here. I think I really appreciate you, coming in, talking about the past, talking about the future, talking about what's going on now. So, I really thank you for coming on, Jay. Go ahead.
If there was anything else that you would like to talk about or put out there, go ahead and you can do that now if you'd like.
Well, the one thing I'm good at jumping around and getting sidetracked and stuff, but the one thing that I actually do have coming up is that I'm representing the U.S. at the World Team, what the hell is it called? The World Grappling Championships this year. I'm back on the team again.
That's awesome.
I'm representing the U.S. at 140 pounds in
Nice.
Minsk, Belarus, Russia.
Beautiful.
Woo-hoo!
Awesome.
Take Andre
I haven't
with
been
you.
on the team for a few years. I took a few years off because I was just doing MMA and this and that and whatever. But I'm back on the team this year, and I think somebody put it up on my Wikipedia page, and I had competed for the U.S. team from 2007 to 2011. So I was on it for like 5 years, 4 or 5 years, something like that. And so now I'm back,
Wow.
and I'm going to go and try and, bring home some gold for the U.S.
Andre Arlovsky's from Belarus, right? Are you going to take him with you, kind of help you out?
Probably not, but no,
Okay.
That would be awesome, though. I got to ask him about some good places to eat or some interesting places to go see. But actually, right now, I'm in St. Louis. Like, I'm living and training in St. Louis at Steve Berger's gym. Now, if you're old school, you know that name.
I do, actually,
That's an old-ass name. Like, and I'm having a great time here. I'm having a good time. There's a lot of really awesome dudes here. Chris Heatherly's here. He used to fight in the UFC. Of course, Steve was in the UFC. He's fought everywhere. There's a lot of really small guys. Oh, they're so much fun. Like Danny O'Connor, which you guys haven't heard of yet because he hasn't made it big. Kenny Porter. These dudes are so awesome, and they're going to light the world up.
I bet.
So it's a good time. But that's where I'm at right now, and that's what's coming up for me. Yeah. So if there's anybody out there listening, I would like a fight. I would like to fight.
Well, I do the Facebook site for our podcast, so I will certainly be writing about this interview and you wanting to have a fight. Jay is also on the Twitter as well, tweeting, and I do some tweets as well. So we're going to do our best to get you out there, of course. Not that you need us, of course. You're a legend, but we're going to be writing about it and tweeting about it.
I love everybody. Any help that anybody ever wants to give me is always appreciated. Like, I don't look down on anything or anybody. I welcome everybody. Like, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for guys like you giving me a shot on your podcast or your show or your radio show. Like, everybody has gotten me to this point where I'm at right now.
Well,
So,
Tara, this has been nothing but a highlight of my life talking to you. I'm such a big fan of mixed martial arts. Anybody who knows me knows it. My life goes, you look at my Twitter account, it says, loves Jesus, his family, and mixed martial arts. That's me in a nutshell. So you have just made a dream come true for myself.
It has been an honor to speak with you, honestly. Time is running short,
you guys
though.
are awesome. Thank you.
And honestly, we would love to have you back again sometime if you wouldn't mind. especially
I'm all about it.
if you get another fight. When you get another fight, I should say, I would love to have you back on to talk about that.
And any of the other fighters
awesome.
that, you know, if you
Okay.
think they'd have a great time on our show, send them our way as well. You know, we love doing it.
Sure.
All right.
Hey, you guys should have some of the people here on. Absolutely. My buddy that I train with, Chris Heatherly, is fighting for Bellator coming up on June 24th, I think it is. You should have him on.
Yeah,
Totally.
definitely. We wouldn't mind at all.
And he was in the UFC. He fought in the UFC a couple of times.
Well, we'll certainly look him up, and he can always reach us at MMA Think Tank Podcast, Facebook, Twitter, or, you know, we'll certainly look into that.
All right, cool.
All right. Thanks very much, Tara.
Thanks, Sarah.
Awesome. Nice talking to y'all.
No, very nice talking to you. Thank you very
Bye-bye.
much.
Bye.
Bye. Mike, that was a fantastic interview. And I could have let her talk for days. I mean, she had so many great stories and stuff. So
Yeah, I agree. I thought that, you know, we had great questions. She had great answers. She had great questions for us too, and she wasn't afraid to just keep going on the topics we asked and creating new ones.
Yeah.
And I like I said in the interview, very just amazing. We got to talk to her, and quite not just a feather in my cap to talk to a person like this, but just to be in the presence of a person like that is just amazing.
yeah, she's a good person, and I can't wait to have her back on. Mike, let's go ahead and get into the fights now and your comeuppance.
Yes, let's start off with that.
Let's go ahead and start talking about this. Of course, people, we're talking about UFC 199. And as you heard at the top of the show, Bisping shocked the world, people. And Mike, why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, you know, I don't know if I can pick anybody who said out of the woodwork that said Michael Bisping was going to win this fight. But
except for Michael Bisping.
Michael Bisping can beat a gorilla. But you know, it was such an amazing story. You know, in the last podcast, you know, I said, you know, look, he's probably got a chance, maybe because of his stand up. But look, you say these things, and it's true, he's got a chance. But nobody thought it was going to happen. But man, the combination landed in the first round, sent Luke, you know, to the canvas and up against the cage, and a couple more punches, and that was it. But Jay, as much as amazing stories as Bisping being a company guy and, you know, getting close to a title shot a couple of times, finally getting it, and even winning this middleweight title in the UFC, I thought to myself a little bit, you know, it looks like Luke is kind of being a little cocky in there.
Yeah. That's the story of the fight, really. Luke coming in really cocky, head up high, chin up high. Didn't respect those hands for Michael Bisping, obviously. And Michael Bisping, well, he took advantage of that, and he threw some beautiful combos. And here's the thing. I don't want to take away from what Michael Bisping did, because those shots he landed were just beautiful.
It's textbook Bisping. That's what he does. He just, you know.
Yeah, and it was just it was awesome for Bisping. Now, that said, yes, I picked Luke to win this fight, and I really think that if Luke didn't go in there with that sort of attitude, thinking that he could walk right through Bisping's punches, I think he still would have won that fight. But hey, it is what it is. Bisping won. Can't take that from him. He's got the belt, and Luke was the loser that night, and kind of deservedly so. You know?
Yeah, it's for me. It's kind of a movie storyline for Michael Bisping. Look, Michael Bisping is not, as me and Jay have discussed, you know, not on the podcast, but discussed. Michael Bisping is not that Cinderella story of you know, he can be kind of a kind of a bad guy, I guess, and Luke's kind of cocky as well. But to see this guy, at least in the sport, do what he did to get there, I'm really. I think it's fantastic, and really the only thing closer to that, and Jay, I don't know if you think this eclipses it or not, but is of course the benchmark, which is Sarah versus GSP, and that upset. What do you think upset is bigger? Do you think it's this one, or do you think it's George St. Pierre?
Oh, Sarah against George St. Pierre. No contest there. None at all. That was such a huge shock. This one, it wasn't as big as of a shock to me, because Luke Rockhold, the way he carried himself in that cage was just, well, stupid. You know, you can't go up against a guy who's a boxer, mind you, who that's his bread and butter is his hands, and you can't just walk into those punches with your chin high. it's not going to bode well. It didn't bode well for him that night. So,
and George was ready for that fight with Sarah. He fought, 100%, guns a-blazing.
Yeah.
Jay, I know we have a kind of a shorter discussion here with everything else because of the interview. You want to move on to Uriah Faber, Dominic Cruz 3, or you want to close up some loose ends maybe on Rockhold?
No, you know what? As far as Luke Rockhold and Bisping, I don't know if anything's been said. What's going to happen next for them too? Whatever happens. It's not going to bother me if they don't rematch, and they fight other people. I don't care at this point. It's not going to bother me at all if they don't rematch.
Well, I don't think Luke Rockhold deserves a rematch. I didn't think Chris Weidman deserved a rematch, and I love Chris Weidman. I'll leave you with this, though, Jay. If you want to discuss it, we can. What's flying around right now, and it's kind of more of a fan thing as opposed to actually the UFC, is that people are wanting to see Dan Henderson fight Bisping again, which from a record standpoint, look, Dan Henderson is 3-6 in his last 9.
Yeah.
He just won his last fight. As amazing as it was, but we just can't get his knockout of Michael Bisping at UFC 100 out of our head. And so, look, Bisping is one of those guys who'd love to get a win back from another guy. Dan Henderson had that feel-good story. I'm just saying that's what's going around, and you never know, because, look, I realize it's Conor McGregor, but Conor McGregor is a featherweight champ fighting at 170. We'll see what happens, huh?
Look. You don't put the H-bomb up against the champ, okay? I don't see why you would put Dan Henderson up there right now. I mean, he just beat a guy that, let's face it, the guy's not a great, top 5 fighter. He didn't beat some guy to get there. So I don't see how you can just throw him up in there for the belt. It just
I agree.
You just
beating
can't
Lombard is great, but not
no. It's great for him. It's not great for many other people in the octagon. So I'd squash that if I was the UFC. I wouldn't do it.
Well, that's why I brought it up. That's the only thing really in the woodworks right now. Uriah Faber versus Dominic Cruz 3. Hey, I was hoping Uriah could get the same thing Bisping did, go against all odds and finally get that UFC belt. Jay, he couldn't do it. He got the first round on one of the scorecards, but even slammed Dominic Cruz and looked good in that first round, at least competitive. But after that, it was a Dominic Cruz type of fight, sticking and moving, not really hurting anybody, but getting the win.
It was a Dominic Cruz bore fest. Let's be honest. We've said it before. Dominic Cruz is he's boring, and I don't care. There's a lot of people out there that'll disagree and say how amazing he is. I don't find his fight style very amazing. That said, is he a good fighter? Of course. I'm not saying he's a bad fighter at all. He'd kick my butt. He beats everybody in that division right now. And I think that he keeps that belt for some time until somebody else, possibly a DJ, moves up. I know we've talked about this, and you don't agree fully that he has the possibility of beating Dominic Cruz, but I think he does.
Oh, no, I don't think he has the possibility of beating him. I'm just not picking him.
Oh, okay.
I fully think he has a chance to beat him. Yeah.
Because I think DJ's a different guy now than he was when they first fought. That aside, though, this fight was boring, Mike. Uriah versus Dominic, and I don't want to see a Uriah Dominic 4. So I think we're done. We're done there. So let's go ahead and move on to Max Holloway versus Ricardo Lamas, another guy that we love so much in the octagon.
Ricardo Lamas, Jay?
Yeah, he's amazing. Look, guys, we make fun of, not Ricardo Lamas. It's not that we're making fun of him. We're making fun of the positioning he's in and the basically being in the top 5 all the time. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to Mike. And as you've seen on this night, it didn't make sense that night either. Max Holloway outclassed him in every facet, in the octagon. It was crazy to watch Max Holloway. He picked him apart. It basically picked him apart. Didn't finish the fight, went the distance, unfortunately. But I got to say, Mike, those last 10 seconds were amazing.
That's why I was going to bring that up. I'm glad you did. Lamas has a chin, and he doesn't have a chin just because of that last 10 seconds. But that whole fight, because Holloway was picking him apart and landing blows, I thought Holloway was going to win in that second round. And he couldn't put Lamas away. Shows the true
Toughness.
test of a fighter that Lamas is. But Max Holloway is coming, guys. He's coming. He's on 8 wins in a row, I believe, and he's got to be top. He's top 5 now, and I really think that he is probably going to be your next #1 contender unless he fights one more time.
Yeah, I would love to see this guy fight for the belt soon because I think he's ready, Mike. He's ready.
Yeah, I can't think of anybody right now, in the featherweight division. I mean, you got Conor, who, maybe vacating that belt because I just read that Matt Kavanaugh, or at least Kavanaugh, I know it's his last name, his coach, said he's not sure either if he's going to defend that belt. And so you've got Aldo and Edgar fighting right now. And then of course, we're going to talk about Chad Mendes later on, and he's coming off a loss as well as the big news that we're going to talk about. I mean, really, Holloway is he's got his foot solidly in that next.
And I think Max Holloway does really well against Frankie and Aldo. I think he does great against those two, Mike, and any of them really. But as far as Conor goes, that really upset me that you just said that. I didn't read that yet, but if he doesn't defend the belt, that sucks. I mean, we can't really get into this talk. We'll see in the future, but he better defend it. That's crazy.
Yeah, or at least go to 155 where he's not, all beefed up, what I think. But I agree with you 100%. I'd like to see at least one defense. It just seems like if you defend it once, I hate to sound like a cliche, but it shows you that you were really the champ, that type of thing. And, of course, this whole run with Conor McGregor has been great. We talked about Dan Henderson and Hector Lombard.
Yes.
Dan Henderson, he dropped Hector Lombard or wobbled him a little bit in that first round. Hector Lombard came back, knocked him down, wobbled him with a great first round. Second round, man, I mean, they got the H-bomb. You got what I call the H-missiles, and I'm not going to lie. Look, Kenny Florian said the same thing, H-missiles. That's what I was thinking as well. He threw that kick, stumbled Lombard, and then as he was holding on to the leg, as Lombard was holding on to the leg, I'll just say it, old man Henderson just threw the elbows, caveman style, 1, 2, dropped him, and then when he was on the ground, threw more elbows on him, and they stopped in the second round, and that was like fight of the night to me, really. I mean, the story of Bisping, becoming champ was a fantastic story. Dominic Cruz putting away, his hated rival was great, but man, that fight, Jay, why don't you jump in on that too?
That Uriah Faber versus Dominic Cruz, that's not even contention for fight of the night, in my opinion. That no matter rivalry or what, that fight was just a stinker. Dan Henderson, Hector Lombard. Dan Henderson. Now, I know a lot of people out there that listened to the last podcast have probably laughed at me back then when I was getting excited going, the H-bomb. And they're probably sitting there going, dude, he's going to get KO'd by Hector. Now I'm vindicated, okay? Dan Henderson beat Hector Lombard and just KO'd him. And you know what was so good about this fight, Mike? Because I agree. I think this fight was probably fight of the night as well. What was so great about it was that Hector Lombard rocked Dan Henderson, and it looked like he was about to go down and out for the count. And he just got back up, fought his way back, and ended up destroying Hector in the second round the way he did. It was just amazing. Amazing fight.
And if I don't know if it's still there it's been a week ago, but I was able to find a video from YouTube, and I don't know if this is something that they show overseas or not, but they showed the whole thing of the highlights. Usually they'll show you if someone gets knocked out on a pay-per-view, they kind of just show you the still pictures of the knockout. Here they actually showed the whole thing. In all its glory. It was just great. Something else in all its glory that I loved, Jay, was Dustin Poirier versus Bobby Green. And what I mean by that kicked off the fight card, the main card. Bobby Green is a fantastic fighter, but he talks a lot. Whether he does it because he's like that or he tries to get in your head, he was talking to Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier had none of it. Straight punch, knocked him down. Bobby Green's credit, he didn't get finished there. Dustin Poirier, though, did get the win by TKO. Jay, what are your thoughts on that?
I thought it was a great fight. Dustin, I think, is at home in that division. I think that he looked great. He's a solid fighter, always has been. But I think going down to the lighter divisions was just too much for his body. So
exactly,
he looks great here. He's going to be a force to be reckoned with in that division. And yeah, I'm all for it, man. It's awesome to have another guy in there in contention with the rest of them.
Looks better than in this run at 155 they did in his first run.
Yes.
We're running out of time. Jay, want to hit that news corner, I guess?
Yeah, I might get into some news.
News Corner.
What do you got for us?
Guys, we're going to kind of roll down this a little quickly since we had such a long interview with Tara LaRosa, and we would have loved to have it longer. So, Tara, if you listen to this, we're happy to go a little short on this stuff. Bob Meyerowitz is into the contributors wing of the UFC Hall of Fame coming up next month. And Don Fry is going to be in the Pioneer Wing.
For his mustache?
Big fan of Don Fry.
For his mustache?
For his mustache alone.
Yes.
Because they decided, you know what? Let's bring the rest of him along with it. And
Okay.
he will be let in by the mustache. No, I'm just kidding, guys. Jay is right. His mustache is king.
Yep.
But yeah, what a great guy. Not just a fighter who was he won UFC 10, 8, and I believe the Ultimate 96 tournaments way back in the day. Hence the Pioneer, but also fought in Pride. If you ever go to the fan conventions, you meet this guy. He's one heck of a guy. And I will be going to the fan convention
Don't lie.
and the fight week next month. So hopefully I'll see him inducted. And just quickly, Bob Meyerowitz. I don't know much about the guy except for seeing him on the old videotapes, the old DVDs. Jay, just a good guy. He got the sport going, and I respect him for it.
Mike, don't lie.
Yes.
When you met Don Fry, when you first met him at the convention, you thought it was Tom Selleck.
I said to Christy, did Tom Selleck put on some weight? Because Tom Selleck is that guy's still a handsome guy, but
Yeah, he's a much bigger guy. Anyway, yeah, Don Fry, that's really cool. I'm glad. I'm happy for him. He is one of the pioneers, and congrats to him. And what else you got for us, Mike?
Darian Caldwell, undefeated Bellator bantamweight. He's fighting Joe Malongo. They're going to be fighting at Bellator 159, as well as David Rickles versus Melvin Gillard. Let's look. Melvin Gillard has lost 3 in a row, including his 2 Bellator fights, 1-1 in WSOF. We all love David Rickles comes to fight, fan favorite. So that's, we'll certainly see where both those guys are at there. See where Caldwell does against Taimanglo. He is 22-6-1, 11 subs, 5 KOs. So that's going to be a good fight. Yeah. Bigger news. The fight is still happening now. It's going to be UFC 202, however. Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz too. So that's finally happening.
And that is at 170, right?
Yes, that is going to be at 170.
Okay. So, yeah, we'll see how that plays out for him, but I'll still call it here, Mike. I don't think he wins that fight again.
I think you and I may be in the minority, Jay. I agree with you. And the only wrinkle I think we have in this fight this time is that it's not just that he's going to be training knowing he's fighting at 170 this time, because he was supposed to be fighting at 155 against Dos Anjos, but now he's really going to be getting his body ready, and it's still probably not enough time for him to get stronger, Jay. But I'm still picking Diaz too to outlast the strikes from McGregor and really do the same thing.
Yeah. I'm thinking the same thing. What else you got?
Yeah, we've got Brock Lesnar versus Mark Hunt. Now the co-main event of UFC 200. The card gets bigger and bigger. It's got to be done, right? Are they done with this, Jay? I mean, Lesnar Hunt. It's
pretty big. But as you told me before, Mike, when we were talking about this, Mark Hunt, it's kind of sad, because here you have Brock Lesnar coming back, but he's fighting Mark Hunt, a guy who's in the hunt for a title. He's in the mix. And yeah, no pun intended, but I guess it worked. But Mark Hunt is looking for that title, and if he gets beat, then it's all over for him, I fear.
And also it's Brock Lesnar in a one-off fight. I didn't say that. We don't know if he's going to be able to fight again or what happens. So you bring this fight to 200 that really only hurts Mark Hunt.
Yep.
Look, I've never been a huge Brock Lesnar fan, but I think he's great for the heavyweight division. If he can be the Brock Lesnar that was before the diverticulitis that really hurt him. Now, I'm not saying he still would have beaten Kane. I don't know that. But now he's healthy. It's been 5 years. He feels great. So we're going to see what happens. I just wish they would have given him somebody like Stefan Struve or somebody like that's not in the hunt.
Because I could, as we talked about this, we could see Brock Lesnar taking Mark down, and then Mark has nothing.
Yeah.
And I think that's seriously going to be his game plan. And as you said, this hurts Mark Hunt. This does not hurt Brock Lesnar at all. Even if Brock loses, it's a one-off fight for him.
Yep.
So it's unfortunate.
Some other interesting news, really for it's not fight news per se between fighters, but it's the fight game. The UFC revoked Ariel Helwani's media credentials, as well as the credentials for his photographer Esther Lynn and videographer Casey Layden before the main event of UFC 199. They're restored a couple days later. If you guys don't know that story, it was on the sites, but not as big as I thought it would be covered. Jay, it was a weird situation. I know you've got a lot to say on this. I know we don't have a lot of time because we have a shortened show, but go ahead and give your piece, and I'll kind of give my piece just to wrap it up, I guess.
Okay. The only thing I have to say about this is that from what I've heard from, other podcasters, other people in the media, they've talked a lot about how Ariel Helwani is a journalist. And some were for him, some were against him in this situation. But that's the key thing here. He is a journalist. Whether or not you think he's a big journalist or not, it doesn't matter. He writes for the sport. He does a lot of talking on this sport, whether it's his radio show or his podcast. This guy is a journalist. And what do journalists do? They try to break stories. That's what they do. They try to get stories first. They try to get it out first. And that's what he did here. He got the story out first that Brock Lesnar was back. And, of course, at that time, we didn't know who he was fighting. He didn't know either. But he just put it out there, and he got in trouble for it. Got banned for it, which was, a pretty steep punishment for being a journalist. And I've heard all the arguments. I've heard people talk about it from even Joe Rogan saying that, he's not the type of journalist that's putting anything out that's important. Say, if there's a disease that people need to know about or something, that's beside the point. These people have livelihoods. These people have websites and stuff that this is how he makes his money. So he cracked the story first. That's what journalists do. I don't have any problem with the situation. I don't think one way or the other about the guy. If he's a bad guy or if he's a good guy, it doesn't matter to me. He's a journalist, okay? That's what he's going to do. That's all I got to say.
Okay, so for me, I kind of see it the other way, but I'm not this is not my milieu. The way I look at it is they both can, well, Jay, I shouldn't say I look at it the other way. I see both sides of the story. Not that you haven't looked at both sides, but I'll just say what I have to say. You're right. He's a journalist. But because he's a journalist, that doesn't mean that a private company, the UFC, who's given this guy so many chances. When I listened to his rebuttal to what happened on his own podcast, that they can't say, okay, we've given you a lot of chances. Just hold off on this information for a second, or at least give us you could have given us a courtesy, letting us know you're going to drop it. And he didn't. He decided that being a journalist, when it's good for him or when it's in his favor is good, but when it's not in his favor, well, then we're just talking about mixed martial arts here. I'm not covering, this, that, or the other. So for me, it was just a crappy situation on all sides. I wish it wouldn't have happened.
I can agree with that.
They let him go, which is their right to do. And you know what? It was his right to do the story. And I'm glad that he's back now. Can get back into the UFC, do his job. I'm glad he's still on mixed martial MMA fighting, and hopefully, look, the UFC is probably going to put a short leash on this guy, but I'm glad he's back because you need to have somebody like Ariel Helwani covering this sport. This guy is a great reporter. He's a great journalist. Sometimes you bite the hand that feeds you, whether you agree with that hand or not, and it's just a cluster of problems all around for me. So that's just how I felt about it. I'm glad it's finally resolved.
I'll agree with that much. I think that there was some things on both sides that was kind of wonky here, but it's all done now. It's over with. Of course, we know he's going to be on a short leash. To what extent, we don't know, but Jay, he's back.
You're right. We don't know, but I think he's just going to be asking questions, and that's it. Right. I don't think the UFC is going to give him any kind of on UFC Tonight or a lot of coverage.
I think that ship has really sailed because I mean it when he was on Fox, he was kicked off of Fox. Don't you remember?
Yeah.
So he's got a long history with not quote unquote listening to what the UFC wants him to do. But like I said, again, he's a journalist.
Or Fox.
And here's the thing: some journalists are slime balls. I'm not saying Ariel is, but that's just the way it goes, people. That's their job. All right, Mike, let's go ahead and move on. But I agree with you. It's all over now, so we'll see what happens in the future.
Something that coming up now, also Rose Namajunas is versus fighting Carolina Kowalkiewicz.
Yeah, I can't.
It's hard to say her name, Jay. But you guys may know her. She's fighting they're fighting at UFC 201, which is great. Namajunas, we all know. Carolina Kowalkiewicz, in case you're not too sure, she's solid Muay Thai. She's 9-0. She's got 2-0 in the UFC. So it's going to be a great fight. I know Rose is a submission fighter, but she's not afraid to throw things on the feet as well, Jay. So is it a number one contenders match? I think it very well may be, Jay, because Namajunas could, I think, set off to the side, but there's not enough. We still have the finale with Jędrzejczyk and Gedalia, and since that hasn't happened yet, and we're already been past Namajunas fighting Tecia Torres, I think they got to give her a fight. So I'm down with that fight.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this fight. I like both of these people. I like Carolina and I like Namajunas. I'm not even going to attempt to say Carolina's last name because I will just butcher it. But she's been on a tear. She's been beating everybody. Now, everybody meaning not so many, somebodies out there that these aren't really well-known people, but we have people that we've heard of like Heather Clark that she's just beat. And we'll see what happens with this fight. I'm still probably going to go with Rose on this one. But Carolina is not, something to just overlook. That's for sure. She's 9-0.
Yeah, it's a great fight. Couple injuries here, and what I think, I wrote this on the Facebook page, guys, if you've seen it. Some better fights based off of injuries. Josh Koscheck is out of Bellator 158. Now which, look, this is the second time he's pulled out for injury or whatever. Jay, before I move on with the rest of this, I just want to get your take on Josh Koscheck. Do you care?
I don't care about the man, but I do care about the sport, and I think in that situation, I think that you just got to cut this guy.
Okay, the reason I bring it up is because I don't need to see Josh Koscheck fighting anymore, but he is a name. So if they want to go ahead and have him fight, let's do it. But Josh Koscheck continues to get hurt, so look, fight if you can fight, but if you can't, I agree, just let him go. But let's just continue on. Former champ Douglas Lima is now taking his place and fighting Paul Daly. That's going to be at Bellator 158. And also, Evangelista Santos is in for the injured Fernando Gonzalez against undefeated Michael Page. This is Lima's first fight since losing his belt to Andrei Koreshkov. So it's going to be an interesting fight against Paul Daly. That's going to be a great fight. And of course, Evangelista Santos fighting Michael Page. Jay, Santos did defeat another prospect.
Brendan Ward.
Brendan Ward, yeah. He did lose in his next fight to Saad Awad, but now he's fighting Page. Your thoughts on that?
Well, here's the thing. I think that Santos is a little dangerous for Page, meaning that if he takes him down, if he can take him down, it would be dangerous for Page. But I don't think it's going to get to that point. I think Michael Page is going to decimate Santos on the feet.
Yeah, I think I completely agree with your assertion on that. And I would just say that Douglas Lima fighting Paul Daly is a much better fight. And, I don't know who to pick on that, but since we're moving pretty quickly, we'll leave it alone. Just say, I think both those fights are better than the original fights.
I think so, too.
Here's something pretty big here. Anthony Pettis drops the featherweight. Jay and I talked about this. What's next for Anthony Pettis when he lost those 3 in a row? Is he dropping down to featherweight? Does he go back to a different camp? What happens? Well, he's dropping to featherweight, folks, and he's going to make a new start.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about this either, Mike. I think that, well, of course he's dropping down because he wants to be a bigger, stronger guy compared to his competition. At 155 there, he was no longer that big, strong guy. He was actually treated like a rag doll sometimes. But at 145, I still don't see that much different coming for him. I think that we're going to see some more L's. He's going to have some more losses.
Yeah, I think that the featherweight division for him, even though the lightweight division is one of the better divisions out there and better than featherweight, just for him and his style, I mean, you've got some really good wrestlers at featherweight.
You got to look at the top 5. You got to look at the top 5 there. I don't think he beats any of those top 5.
No, I agree. I agree, and that's what I was going to say. There's some good wrestlers there. The strikers are very good at featherweight. I mean, him against Max Holloway would be a great fight, but I'm picking Holloway.
Yeah, me too.
Him fighting Jose Aldo, I'm picking Aldo.
Yeah.
Him against not Pettis, because if Pettis fights Frankie Edgar, I'm picking Edgar. It's just we're gonna have to see what happens, my man.
Yep, definitely. And here's lead into this big news, Mike. I want to hear it.
Yeah, this is the last thing for the news. If you haven't heard about it, it's just a couple days ago. Chad Mendez of Team Alpha Male that never, to my knowledge, has been popped for anything, tested positive for an out of competition USADA test. So we don't know yet what he was popped for, but he's been popped.
Well, it's been mentioned before from other fighters that have sort of just kind of threw shots at him that he might have been on roids or something, but we'll see what happens. My guess is that he was taking some banned substance and knew about it. Chad, don't say you didn't know. I hate when fighters say that. Yeah,
I love Team Alpha Male. They've never been popped before. So look, most of the time, 99% of the time, it is what it is. It is what it's been called, and he probably did take something. But we'll see what happens. It is a tainted supplement. That's the new thing, Jay. I'm sure you know.
Yeah,
my supplement was tainted. But it's sad news, not just for me because I'm a Chad Mendes fan, but it's sad news just for the sport when you have these guys that, Jay, maybe I posited this on the Facebook. Maybe he, that record of like 1-3 in his last 4 fights. Did he finally say, I can't keep up for the title run? I need a little something to help me.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe it was that as well.
Yeah, that's something to think about. But just one thing before we leave this subject, if let's say I'm a fighter and I'm working out, I'm doing my thing, I'm training. If somebody hands me something that I didn't create and I don't know what's in this bottle, what's mixed up or whatever, come on now. I'm not drinking it.
Oh, yeah.
That's my livelihood we're messing with. So
exactly.
For this sort of, excuse to still be relevant nowadays, I think it's just a cop-out. It's a cop-out. That's all it is.
Well, let's go ahead and move on to...
We pick 'em.
WSOF 31 is this Friday. Blagoy Ivanovic versus Josh Copeland for the heavyweight title. And also, so that's going to be, that fight will be what it is for what it is. Both these are big guys that can throw hands and punch. Jay, I'm just going to pick Blagoy Ivanovic. He's almost undefeated. So
yeah, no, I'm going Ivanovic as well.
Yeah, and kudos to Josh Copeland, aka Huggy Bear. He's been doing his thing for a while. And then a pretty good one here. Number 1 contenders bout: Jason High versus Mike Ricci. Jason High, UFC vet, just won his first fight in the WSOF in his debut, fighting Mike Ricci, former tough fighter, and had a couple fights in the UFC.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with High on this one, Jay.
Yep. I have got to agree.
Yeah. And just a quick note, John Howard is debuting in his first WSOF fight against Michael Arant. John Howard has fought so many places and was in the UFC. So I'm excited to see, again, another guy that WSOF has picked up that is, could be a wrinkle in the division. So let's move on now to Bellator 156. That's also on Friday. So Friday, guys, you better have that dual DVR or the hopper or whatever that gives you 5 things, because we got 2 fights going on pretty much at the same time. Marcos Galval is defending against Edward Dantes in their second fight. Galval is the champ, but he was defeated by Dantes at Bellator 89. So, Jay, I'm going to go just with I'm going with Dantes simply because he's more well-rounded, not just because he won the first fight, but Galval, I think he's on a 4-fight win streak.
Yeah, I think we both went with Dantes last time as well. Going with Dantes.
That's right. Somebody keeps getting injured.
Yep.
Let's see here. And another, I think a great fight is Brandon Halsey versus John Salter. Halsey's a former middleweight champ, just lost to Rafael Carvalho. I mean, he was undefeated until that point. Great fighter. Fighting John Salter, who I'm not too familiar with, Jay. It is his debut in Bellator. So I'm just going to go with Halsey on that.
Yeah, that's why we got to go with Halsey. Got to.
Yeah. And now a little bit bigger fights here. We get into the big boys with UFC Fight Night 89. That's on Saturday. And we'll take a little bit more time on this, so we're coming to the end of the show. And that is the main event, Rory McDonald versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Jay, if I could just go first, I just have a couple things to say. Wonderboy proved against Hendricks that he's the real deal. I realize McDonald is a different type of fighter, but I'm going with McDonald. I'm going with Wonderboy. I'm going with Thompson.
Yeah, this one's tough for me. Even though I think that Stephen Thompson should be fighting for the belt already, I think Rory McDonald does pose a threat indeed, and I think he poses a threat with anybody in that division, to be honest. But
I'll put this wrinkle in there for you, Jay. This is Rory McDonald's last fight on his contract.
Yeah. I think McDonald might win this one.
Yeah,
I'll go McDonald. I'll go with McDonald.
Yeah, it's a close one. I'm going Thompson. You're going McDonald. Another great fight, co-main event, Cowboy Cerrone. Donald Cowboy Cerrone versus Patrick the Predator Cote. Sounds like an old school wrestling match from the 50s or something. Not easy fight, but going with Cowboy. I mean, I don't know. Look, Cote's pretty well-rounded, been looking great lately. He's no slouch.
That's what I was going to say. Lately, he's been really good.
Yeah. And more of a natural for the weight class for 170. This is Donald's second fight at 170, but I'm going Cowboy.
I'm going Cowboy, too, simply for the fact that we just talked to one of her training partners, Tara LaRosa people, pioneer in MMA. So, yeah, Cerrone.
Yep, and last but not least, Joanna Calderwood versus Valerie Letourneau. Calderwood's only lost that one time in the UFC. Letourneau, you look at her record, she's 8-4, but you know what? She took Joanna champion Yen Jacek to the cards in her last fight. So good swap going on here, I think.
Oh yeah, as much as I like Joanne Calderwood, I'm going Letourneau.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna hope. I think Joanna Calderwood. I'm just gonna go with her. I think she has a good chance of bouncing back here. However,
right.
Letourneau is she's no slouch.
Yeah.
And you're picking her, so I certainly hear that.
Yeah, I hope you're right, man, because I do like Calderwood a lot. I think she's a great fighter and just a great person, fighter for the sport. I think she's a real nice person, and just she would do great as an ambassador. All right, I think that's all we have, Mike. So if you want to get it out there, everything about our Facebook or whatnot, just go ahead and let everybody know.
So since we kind of had a smaller version of our podcast outside of the interview, go ahead and go to Facebook, message the Facebook account or tweet us or whatever, and let us know what you think about what we discussed, who you think is going to win or whatever, or what we're talking about, since we had to go a little quick on it. So yeah, I'm writing every day still. And me and Jay are both tweeting. Jay's getting stuff out there as well, a little more than I am on the Twitter. So I'm trying to catch up on that. But I love talking to Tara LaRosa. I'd love to have her back. I love to talk to all the fighters she knows and doesn't know, but seems like she's got a lot of great fighters she trains with, a lot of people that she knows that's been a part of her life.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a great interview, and I'm honored to speak with such a pioneer. Yep. With that said, guys, thanks for listening this week, and I hope you enjoyed the interview with Tara LaRosa. And, until next time, see you later.
2 weeks, we'll see you.